think. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode. Jack, what episode is this?
Seven.
Okay, welcome back to episode 7. So this week we have one of the coaches from Physique Collective, which is an organization that I follow pretty much since they started. So I feel very, very privileged to have Ryan on. He is one of the best posing coaches in the game and somebody I respect massively. So yeah, thank you for coming on, bro.
No, thank you for having me. I'm always down to do stuff like this. Super cool.
Okay, so we can get started with some questions. I didn't get any good ones. It was literally just like,
I got ridiculous ones. I got one saying why he's so handsome, and it wasn't even a girl.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was like, for fuck's sake, I can't even answer that.
So I got Pete Premier Physique, and then Will Bassnett, like on variations of why you such a sexy bastard and things like that. It's like, oh, brilliant! Thank you for that. Thank you for that, lads.
All of my responses were people rinsing me for fangirling over Ryan.
All
of them.
Yeah, mate, I thought you were like doing a wind up, being dead sarcastic part of his story, saying like, "Surely you wanted me up, Jack."
Man was mega excited. What
can I say?
So how did you sort of like get started in the whole bodybuilding, coaching, posing thingy?
Man, I've been bodybuilding that long. The worst thing is I'm not even big, man. Like, you can't get too big. It's impossible. I think I started training when I was like 17 when I was in college, just because I literally weighed, I remember 8.5 stone. Obviously I've grown a few inches since then, but I was just tiny. And then out of my friends, I was just like the one that stuck at it when all my like friends from around here dropped off. And then I always just bought the Muslim Fitness magazines like you did as a kid. I was like, I want to look like that kind of thing. And then I wanted to compete. So I did a show, I think when I was 19, my first show. I did fitness model in the bikini boy category in Miami Pro and my prestigious Miami Pro card. And then the rest is history. But I think from like age 20, I was a PT. So I've always coached and trained people through all the years anyway, as well as myself.
Yeah, and then recently you sort of made the jump into full-time coaching.
Yeah, well, it just made sense. It was something I'd always done on the side, but I'd never pushed it to make a business kind of thing. Do you get what I mean? My Instagram, I feel, was more of a diary of my progress rather than like showing my clients' progress and things like that. And I didn't mind it being that way because it's like, obviously it is an extra job, but when you've got a full-time job and then you're competing all the time yourself and doing your own bodybuilding, that trying to upkeep that when I was younger just wasn't something that was feasible. But then this last year I got busy enough. I was fortunate enough to be busy enough to quit my job, and I remember it was like, I think it was in the summer, I was earning like the same on the side as my day job, and I was like, what the hell am I doing, man? Just get out of this. Because Luke, you know my old job, it was like quite hard labor as an air conditioning engineer. So you were either grafting your balls off or driving 3 hours to London to graft your balls off, and then I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah. I remember you saying to me, because you were like, it's either boiling hot and I'm the one trying to fix the air conditioning, sweating your face off, or like freezing cold, and neither of those is like
cut in the rain. It's not like you don't get the benefits of it. As soon as you fix it, you gotta go home.
Yeah,
I did enjoy it. I actually used to love being an engineer. I was a really good engineer, but I just thought, mate, the last prep I did when I was with Tom Hames, like Tom will say how difficult it was. We were working in London every day. We had a contract for like an Italian restaurant, and I think there's like 70 in the country, but 50 of them are around London, mate. But we weren't even staying away. We were getting up at 3 a.m. and going and doing it and driving home. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was like, I'm not doing it.
That's wild. Yeah,
fuck that.
So did you go from being a PT to installing air conditioning and then online coaching on the side, and then to full-time online coaching?
Yeah, basically. So I was a PT for a few years, maybe 2-3 years. And then it worked out. I was in a Pure Gym, and I don't know if you guys know their business model, but you basically slave away 15 hours for free and teach all the classes. And then it worked out, like at the time I was training people, but it was in the next town. So the gym I trained at, I was training more people out of that gym. So I was like, why am I even doing this? So one of my clients owned an online business actually called Made with Love and Sparkle. So I was head of customer service for Made with Love and Sparkle for about a year or so. And then I lost my job there. So I remember I think I was 2 weeks out from the Body Power show, the PCA show. And I didn't because prep was expensive, man. I never really had any money when I was younger. It wasn't a well-paid job at all. I remember I went down the gym. I said to the gym owner, I was like, who was helping me at the time, I was like, I don't think I could finish this prep. And my mate who went down, he's about 8 years older than me, was like, oh, why don't you come work for me? So then I was an air conditioning engineer for like 5 years. I didn't have a clue about anything mechanical in my life. I remember the first day was like, pass me the impact driver. It's like a drill with a screw. And I was like, what's that? And it's just like, what the hell have I hired? Like,
that's incredible. That's incredible. How did you feel like 2 weeks out then when you've sort of lost your job and you're like, everything's up in the air?
Like, just to be honest, I think I was that wrecked on that prep anyway, because I prepped myself. This is like when I first got with Tom was after this prep. I remember I told him what I did and he was like, what the hell were you doing? I was eating like 900 calories, yeah. I remember going to the gym and I was like, I'm not lean enough, going crazy. He's like, oh, go no carb then. I was like, how long for? He's like, how long can you go for? So I remember like every meal, the first meal of the day was egg whites. Every other meal of the day was white fish and broccoli. I think I lasted about 20 days before I had a refeed. And I was just doing like all the steps, like 2 hours cardio. I was just as much as I could hammer myself, So I think, but doing stupid stuff like that throughout my whole bodybuilding career, I think has made me into like the coach that I am, because like I've done everything wrong. I've literally done everything wrong. I've ran every wrong cycle that you shouldn't run, tried every method to get fat off that you shouldn't have, like, you know, the least optimal way possible. So I think it pays a lot when I can like give back to somebody and make their life a hell of a lot easier. And it makes every prep I do in the future a hell of a lot easier as well, because I've like stared death in the face.
That just sounds like buckets and buckets full of fatigue, which must not have been fun.
Oh man, I didn't even know what fatigue was. I was like,
it's supposed to be like
I was food. It's like it didn't even matter.
You just keep saying, though. What do you mean?
That's exactly what it was. Like, go out for a walk and pass out. Yeah, sound standard.
What sort of led you down the path of like specializing in the posing side of bodybuilding?
Well, when I did fitness model, I think when I got into it, I'm quite lucky. Look, I'm not a bodybuilder that like particularly believes in themselves a lot at all, or like is confident in themselves and their abilities. I'm starting to get better, but when I was a fitness model, I wanted to look like the classic bodybuilders, and I knew I had like the lines for it, like around the abs, like that, like kind of like, and I could always pose quite well and hit those poses quite well. So I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do classic bodybuilding. As we got into that, I just got pretty good at posing. It just started by helping out a few lads that I knew. And then I remember I was on Facebook, you know, when people add you on Facebook or that goes in your message requests. Like, who the hell is this? And it's like some random lads that want me to pose them from like Nottingham or somewhere. I was like, okay, cool. So they come over to my gym and then it just, yeah. Great. So it just started from there really. And then I'd done bits of it on the side. Last season was really, really busy. I put a lot of lads on stage last season, got a lot of good results. So yeah, and I just stuck with that really.
It's becoming more and more common now for people to pay attention to posing, which is really good because you see some shocking posing, and I can only imagine what it would be like if there wasn't people like you actually sort of showing people how to pose and present their physique, because it just makes you look so much better.
A lot of shocking posing. There's a lot of shocking posing coaches, which is the worst bit. I have like a select list of people that I'd trust with guys if they couldn't come to me, or girls as well. There's probably like 3 or 4 of each.
What's your sort of biggest pet peeve with posing coaches and like the things that they get people to do?
I think my biggest pet peeve, man, is when they like can't describe like anatomically like how to get into a pose, like positioning or anything like that. Do you get what I mean? So like they'll just be like, oh, and then you hit it like that after they've positioned someone. It's like, well, you haven't like described
like this,
like hip extension or hip flexion or anything like that, and like being able to actually describe with a pose and let people cue it. It's almost like you can tell they've just kind of took it and ran with it because people have asked them to help you.
Do you find there is a lot of that learning curve to it? Like just learning those anatomical terms just from your general client base?
Yeah, generally, like I think that's what sets me aside really. because it's one thing to be able to pose, but it's like to be able to teach people and to make it digestible. And not everybody gets like the anatomical way. Some people just need you to help them in person, and they need to get it wrong 10 times or be taught 10 times that they don't understand for it to finally click with them.
Yeah, I remember when we were at FitX and you literally just got me to push my hips backwards, and it made my like both of my back shots look so much better. And it's literally just something as simple as that can change how things look so much.
Yeah, it's well, especially with back shots. You think like every like joint of the spine, every like vertebrae is a point where you can amend your positioning, like in a point of like flexion or extension. So like especially back poses can make all the difference. And I think like you at least need to be able to know like the 5 segments of the spine to like be able to like distinguish to people like what to move with their hips or like their thoracic region up top or anything like that. But it just goes a long way when you can actually describe it to people like that.
Did it take you a while to kind of get an eye for, you know, certain people are going to approach a certain pose differently, like different people hit poses differently? Did it take you a while to kind of learn to get an eye for, okay, your physique, try and hit this pose like this, if that makes sense? Like,
not necessarily like with someone's physique, it's more how they understand it. Because I'll be able to like explain the cues on their foot positioning, hip positioning kind of thing, but it's then ultimately like I could be stood right in front of them telling them what to do and like how to put their pressure on the feet. Like for instance, like a classic pose where you'll have like staggered feet, so the hips are quite twisted, you're like showing the waist at a slimmer angle to bring some nice lines up the obliques up into the lats like that. I can tell them that, right, you've got to shift your weight slightly onto this leg, onto the ball of that foot, and be gentle on that leg as if you've not got to move, not got any pressure on it whatsoever. But some guys are like really still trying to hold themselves up on their calf or anything like that. So sometimes it does pay dividends to have someone in person and work them hard. And like I've met half my guys I've had in this year, I've literally had them, grabbed them and shook them so they like shake the tension out of them because they're like so used to, you know, in a back double, they're like, everyone thinks they have to flex everything like a madman, and you don't. The beauty of it is like you only have to flex what you need to turn on, and it lets you hold that pose in that position for as long as you can on stage, because it's not a nice metric contraction of the whole body. You get what I mean? So a lot of people will hit a rear double and they'll think of like screwing their arms back like that. Well, if you do that, you've got so much tension through your anterior delt that like, can you even contract your lats like that? I don't think so. If you sat on a lat pull down like that, you wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't be able to really feel it. So it's like just getting people to be gentle rather than to flex everything. That's the biggest key I find when I have different people in, getting them to like wipe everything they know clean.
Yeah, and then when you're trying to tense everything as well, you're shaking all over the place.
Yeah.
You can hold the pose for like 10 seconds and then you're done.
Always see people in front of the gym mirror like
yeah,
shaking,
going like a boxer.
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, flexing everything as hard as possible.
That is the one.
It's about making it easy for somebody. Like I said, like everyone can be a great poser or a really good poser, but as well, few people that I ever teach really get it. And the ones that really get it will only need 1 or 2 sessions from me. Like I've got a couple guys that he'll go away. Jack Gregg, one of Christian's clients, he's had 4 sessions with me, but after 2 he was going away and like having a crack at a routine by himself and bringing it back to me. So we were having like some real fun lessons where he brought some super cool routine to me, and I picked it apart and showed him, okay, well, a lot of the things weren't technically correct, but like here's how to get into them technically correct. So like like you either got it or you don't, but everyone can learn to do it well, I think.
Yeah, I get what you mean. That makes sense. Have you got any more plans for posing seminars like next year?
Well, we're trying to cram one in this year, me and Sammy are in Birmingham. I spoke to him last night, and he was like, you know, he speaks, he's like, bruv, we need to get one in before this year ends, man. I was like, oh, you tell me when then, mate. He was like, 2 weeks time, so it might be like the 11th of December.
Didn't he do that last time? He was like,
yeah literally last time weekend. I was like, mate, put a seminar on. He was like, yeah, mate, I've asked Crayford, it's in 2 weeks. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, like, I didn't know we were going to fill it or anything. I was absolutely shitting myself. But no, it's cool.
Yeah, it was a really good turnout though. It was really good.
I've done a few now that like I'm really comfortable like regardless who turns up anyway. The first one I did, I was absolutely shitting myself, and like because you always do when it's your first thing, don't you? It's one thing doing it for a brand or like for a company or like with your friends, but I put it out, and Michael Fox was kind enough to book the whole thing out for him and his guys, and I know him quite well anyway, and he's really sound. So it was really cool to have him as a coach, showing all his guys how to pose, showing him how to pose all his guys. And I don't mind ever doing that, like having a coach on board with their clients to show them how to do it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's really nice to see people like supporting other parts of the industry as well, like booking it out for all his clients.
Yeah, Michael's cool as well. He's a legend. He's like everyone's favorite, like embarrassing dad. Do you know him?
No, I've never actually met
Oh,
him.
he's brilliant. I love the Fox. It's brilliant.
Speaking of future plans, I wanted to ask you, where do you see yourself in business, in bodybuilding, in posing, everything in 10 years' time? Where would you ideally like to be?
I was expecting like 5 years at the max then, but 10
Nah,
years.
man. Long term.
Yeah, how old I'll be in 10 years? Yeah, I'll be nearly 40. I'll be 38 in 10 years. I'll be nearly 39. That's rough. I don't know, man. I think if we regards to business, I think I would have hopefully got to a point where I don't really have to work that much anymore directly with clients, you get what I mean, on a business and a coaching business. With posing, it's something I'd always love to be involved with, and always love to run a hub or something like that online of like a posing portal where people can book in with me, or like a posing coach of mine. And I'll be an IFBB pro in 5 years. So I don't know, about 10.
I like that. I will.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, may have you know more than anyone, Luke. I've never believed in myself or whatever. It's literally only been this.
Yeah, that's why I like it, because to hear you say that is fucking sick in
I'm
itself.
actually not a bad bodybuilder.
No, you're definitely not a bad bodybuilder. What are your plans competitive wise, like next season and the upcoming seasons?
So we're gonna go for 2 bros again, because I think I would have filled the weight cap. So it's an easy guess that I'll have put 10 pounds on since last year, which is a lot of meat on my frame, because I'm only small bone. Like I don't hold a lot of body weight at all. And I was 170 on the nose, and my cap is 190. So I'm at least 180, 182, I think, peeled down. So we're going to go for next year. I have sent Joe my show dates. So it's going to be mid to late next year, like September. I'll have a crack at 2 bros at the regional, because I think there's a pro qualifier just after it. If I get my arse handed to me in the regional, I'll go and win the PCA and do PCA finals, I think.
I love that.
No, sorry, that weren't actually me being a dickhead then. I love doing PCA. I've always placed really, really well. I've never placed less than second, and like I love doing their shows. So I'd love to win. I'd love to win the PCA. I feel like I've never like done a PCA finals in place, like kind of thing, but I've always done well in their regionals. So I'd love to finish the season, you know what I mean? And I'd love the PCA finals title, I think. And judging by like past physiques and stuff like that, I think like the caliber is there.
Yeah, you're always going to beat like 2/3 of a classic lineup anyway, because you know how to pose and you actually have classic structure, unlike most people that tend to compete in classic these days.
Always getting good nick as well, to be fair. I've never struggled to get in condition. But if I don't get my ass handed to me, then I'll do a pro qualifier. I think there's one more in the UK start of October, and then there's like a France or I don't know, somewhere in Europe after that. So I'll have a pop at that. It just depends how I do from that first show.
Yeah, that makes sense. And going back to sort of your previous preps, because after it was your last prep where you were working with Tom, you then started working with Joe Jeffrey, another coach from the Physique Collective. How did you sort of find that transition from more hardcore bodybuilding, bury yourself mentality to like evidence-based fatigue management, training with reps in reserve, all of that? How did you find that transition?
Well, Tom wasn't like bury yourself mentality. Tom always looked after me, and he always had a refeed. I always like I say that like it's your reward. It wasn't your reward, but he managed like me getting very, very flat through the week, working stupid hours, refeeds at the weekends, kind of thing. He did manage it well. It just made such a difference with Joe, because Tom didn't do the training at the time, and I just needed, because I'd spun my wheels. I think like the last time I competed was 2019, before like 2021. And I think I'd put about like 6 pounds of muscle on, and I was like, I need to do better than this. So I was like, I need someone that's going to oversee like my training, the whole lot. So, and I was already part of the website as the posing coach, so it just made sense to go with Joe. Yeah, but yeah, it's been crazy so far. Every time I pushed up with Joe or anything, anytime I work, like anything we've attempted together, it's like it's just gone on by accident. It's gone on that smoothly. It's so good.
Have you ever had any moments where you're sort of like, when it comes to training with like reps in reserve and that sort of thing, you miss training to failure, like all the time or anything like that?
Yeah, sometimes, man. Like, I'm a normal person as well. Like, I fall out of love with bodybuilding just as much as everybody else does. Like, it's not there as a constant. It never is for anybody. And if they say it is, they're lying, man. Because no one lives on that in their own little world constantly. And sometimes you do, yeah. Sometimes you have like shit training weeks, or sometimes like at the start of the year, I just like went through a rough like mental patch at the start of the year, and I didn't even want to do it anymore. I didn't even know if I wanted to compete again. Didn't know if I wanted to train. I still went in the gym, ticked the boxes, did my sessions, ate my food, just in case I wanted to carry on. But yeah, so like I just take it as it comes at the minute. Like, I'm really, really happy enjoying everything that I do now, as well as bodybuilding, because I was so all in after show, and I've made the most progress I ever have. But that's the scale, isn't it? You're going to tip the scale so far one way that the rest of your life gets neglected, kind of thing. So it's one of them. It's you get out what you put in, but whatever you put in, you've got to be happy with. Do you get what I mean? Like, I've never been to Ibiza. Been to Ibiza this year. The other week, like last week or the week before, went away to my mate's birthday to Poland. Like, I've just come home now at halftime from the pub from my mates of football. Like, I don't let bodybuilding completely control my life. And to be honest, I feel like my progress just flies because I enjoy getting in the gym. I enjoy eating my food. I enjoy like doing this project that I'm really interested in then, rather than feeling like a chore.
So how do you manage? It sounds like, you know, you're quite clued up with kind of balancing bodybuilding and the rest of your life. How do you personally kind of find that balance? Like, if you were to quantify it, if you're able to.
I found the balance by making all the mistakes where you've knocked it out of balance. You're like, this has literally just pushed everything away. Like, mate, from even like people you've dated in the past, or relationship you had in the past, they have like come to ends. Like, I don't regret anything that's happened because I like where I am now. I like where my life is. But there's a lot of things that I've lost from being so committed to bodybuilding, or like just my life not fitting in with their people's lives, or like even my friends or some of my old friends or something like that have not fit in. So I think you just got to weigh up what like matters to you at the time, like what you value keeping in your life, kind of thing. If you need your peace and quiet, you need your peace and quiet. Like, if you need to come off Instagram and socials and take a break from like, you know, pushing yourself so hard on social media, trying to keep up with everybody, because it all ties into one. Like, our bodybuilding now is not just us going to the gym and enjoying it. And sometimes I'd love that. Like, at my gym at Intent, there's just like, it's like a little family. There's like 30 members there max, with all like the like Nautilus and Cybex kit, like heaven.
It's unreal.
Sometimes sometimes I think to myself, I'm like, imagine if there's no social media or anything like this, and it'd just be me and like a couple of my mates that bodybuilding here, and it would feel like, you know, like the golden area or something cool. So I think just weighing up, just don't let it ruin your life, to be honest. Don't let it ruin your social life. Don't let it ruin your relationship with food. Like, there's people out there that can do it all, and the way they can do it all is just by balancing it very well, and like just by learning to cope with it.
That's the harder thing to do, though, rather than just saying fuck it, I'm all in. Is actually learning how to have a life outside of it is much more difficult.
Well,
Yeah,
I love is,
100%.
I love what Matt says. Matt says, whatever decision you make, own it. Everything that happens is your fault. Doesn't matter whether it's your fault and it turns out bad, but everything is a like product of your decision. So just, you got to be happy with whatever decision you make with everything, whether you like enjoy going out occasionally, or whether, if it's okay to be balls to the walls. But if you're feeling really, really lonely and feeling really, really shit, and bodybuilding is bringing you down, like, what do you weigh up to bring you back up?
Do you have a lot of like auto regulation built into your plan? Do you follow a meal plan, or do you get given macros and you kind of work around that with the social events?
No, so I love being told just do this, eat this at this time, and I'll do that, because like I don't know what it is. I hate playing Tetris and like with your macros and stuff like this, having it to fit it in and having to think too much. For me, that would take so much away from my day if I was having a social day, to be like, oh, fuck, I've got to tally all this up now. Like, I hope that I'm close to my macros and then you're off, kind of thing. I love a meal plan, because what me and Joe will do with an off plan is take your biggest or your two biggest meals out the meal plan and change it to an off plan. And I think doing it very, like, with a lot of my guys and girls, they have as many off plans as they want. I don't mean go and eat an off plan every day, but I mean, do not say no to a social occasion. Replace your biggest meal with it. Two biggest meals if you're going for a massive dirty burger and loaded fries and dessert and drinks, But what's important for me to see at the end of the day is your weekly data. So if it's just keeps spiking and spiking, I cannot read anything on it, then it's okay. Okay, now we'll rein it in. Like, calm down now. 1 a week or 2 a week max. Whereas, like what I've just said there, as much as you put in as optimal as it's going to be, but don't let it take away from your social life. But there's obviously that balancing act of where it's going to come into play and wreck your progress, kind of thing. And with regards to auto-regulating and everything else, everything's scheduled pretty much for a deload. So I train like the same as Luke, whereas it'll be like 4 or 5 week blocks and then a deload. And I find that actually really helps a lot better, because I know when it's coming. So I know a good opportunity for me to plan something if it is like a week away somewhere like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's very, very easy to fit it into your like phase of whatever phase you're in.
It reduces the stress massively as well,
Yeah.
because you don't have to worry about like, where am I going to train? Is the gym going to be any good or anything like that? Because it's like, oh, I've got a week off the gym. Sound.
I think like when it comes to like being pretty fluid with it and coping with everything pretty well and auto-regulating it, there needs to be a rule book with everything, like your set weeks of training and set weeks of deload, like having set meals or something. But if someone's eating some macros and they're like a pro at doing it, I've got a lot of clients that do that. I'll leave them to it and I'll just get them to put their macros in. And if their biometrics are a bit off a couple of days, I'm like, okay, well, what have you eaten these few days? Or like, oh, your sleep's off or your digestion's really off. What did you eat, kind of thing? And you have that data to look from. So yeah, it's just what suits the person best, to be honest. But I think having a rule book of these are your meals or these are your macros, that if they're pro at doing macros, this is what you're training, this is when you get rest, this is when you get you time. You don't have to think about any of that then.
Yeah, it relieves that pressure a lot and means that you actually can enjoy those things when you're doing them, rather than thinking about, when am I going to do this, when am I going to do that, and yeah, give you a bit of a mental break from everything, for sure.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than when something's in the back of your mind as well, like when you have a coach as well and there's something you've got to do that day, you're like, oh, I've got to explain this at check-in, or like, oh, I don't want to check in tomorrow, or like on Thursday because I've just done this, blah, blah, blah. If you know that you allocate time where you've got a good relationship with your coach, where you've both on the exact same page, then it just works perfectly.
Yeah, like my check-in with Matt today, we were pretty much just talking about what we're going to do, in the sense of like back and forth what is going to work best, rather than like dictating what I'm doing, if that makes sense. So yeah, building a good relationship with your coach is very important.
I think, as much as some people do benefit from a slight hierarchy, it is important to, not be that like sergeant barking orders at someone, because at the end of the day, they're paying you and they're there to kind of, you're saying, I'm going to help you get to this goal. And really with some coaches, they're kind of almost like irresponsible with, just focusing on numbers, not focusing on balance, not focusing on people's like enjoyment. They're just there. Like,
everyone forgets that we are being employed by the customer, by the client. So
yeah, like you're
the only time we not raise our voice but step our foot to put it back in line is when the client's taking the piss.
Yeah.
And taking it too far with our plan, or not adhering and not getting anywhere and not getting any progress. Any other concern that the client has about anything to do with their training, they're concerned like, oh, I don't like this exercise. It doesn't matter if I don't like this fucking exercise, or I like this exercise, I want them doing it. Like, this doesn't suit me, or this is hurting, or I just don't want to do this, I want to do something else. Then it's your job to find something that fits to the client. If they don't like that food, or if they don't like the meal plan, or if they don't like the macro, or they're like, I've got a new guy and he's not used to running, I'd say low fats. His fats are at like 50. He's really used to running fats at like 90, 100, and he works in a CrossFit gym. So for us to sit down and have a discussion about that and say, it took us to just obviously to also talk it out, like what to do with his goals, to do with hypertrophy and things like that, for this to be more optimal. But it took 2 weeks for us to try that out, for him to go, oh yeah, okay, actually. But it took that trust building up of like, yeah, look, honestly, mate, I'm on your team. I'll do anything you ask of me. Let's just see if this works first. Or is there a reason this is not working for you, kind of thing? You know, your client's got to be comfortable texting you at any time in the day if something's not wrong, or if they just don't want to do something, or if they don't even feel like your service is up to par too. Like it's like if a client has a bad experience with you, you'd hope that they would text you and say like, is there any reason like I'm not getting a response like every so often, or I would just feel like I'm being a bit overlooked to your other clients or anything like that. Like I would hate for a client to feel like they were fully overlooked and leave because they felt like they didn't have a voice, because they need to be able to speak to you.
Yeah, and that's another reason why you can't just like shout at people, because if you shout at someone for doing something wrong, they're just not going to tell you next time, and then you've got no idea what's going on and why things are changing, because you're like breaking down the trust within the relationship, I suppose.
Yeah, it's crazy that like coaches are telling people like almost how to live their life and just not caring that they're not enjoying it. Like a client will come and be like, oh, I want to get shredded, I want to like, you know, I want to feel more confident, and then that coach is just going to dictate like a meal plan or macros at them, and they hate the food and they're like, well, tough.
Well, it's like what I've just said, like about like what you put in and what you get out. Like imagine I've got a client or something and I'm like saying, you need to do this, you need to do that, and then they see me in Ibiza on holiday. They're going to be like, what the hell? Like you got to explain to them, like, look, I'm doing this because I'm okay with taking a week out of my progress and enjoying my life and taking it a little bit more casually for now. It's okay for you to get whatever, but your results are going to be slower.
Yeah, it goes back to what Matt said. Like, if you want to have 2 off-plan meals a week, cool, but accept that that's going to slow your progress down.
Is that sort of trust built with the client over time, or is there any like specific techniques that you'd kind of put into play to kind of build that trust with the client? With, for example, your prospect client, to get them to bring down their fat, is there anything that you sort of took the approach of other than just try this out?
So I'd already had a consult call with him. And I think like you need to get on a call with everybody because they need to see you. It needs to not be a voice call as well. They need to see who they're dealing with, like on Zoom, like face to face. And they just need to get a really good trust for you. And if you don't fit with a client as well, and like, don't get me wrong, I would take any client on, whatever the goal, because I'm pretty confident I could help. Unless it was like something very, very advanced and specific, like specific strongman training that I'm not experienced in, anything to do with fitness, bodybuilding, lifestyle, I'll take on. But if you sit on that call and you know you're not going to gel very well, I don't think I could consciously sell someone the dream knowing that you're not going to click together. I think it is just important to be like that client that I was just on about. We sat, had the consult, got along really well, sent over the plans, sent over his, like startup video and everything like that. So then we're bouncing backwards and forwards and kind of things. So he was like, oh, we usually do it like this. He's like, I was like, okay, well, do you want, I was like, I'm welcome to change it. The first thing I said was, well, okay, well, here's why I've chosen it like this. I'm welcome to change it back to higher fats if it suits you a bit better. And he's like, no, it's okay. We'll start this for the first week. I was like, okay. So in the first week, he checked in. He was like, I'm having a bit of digestive issues, just for 2 days. But it was also after he'd like had an off-plan meal kind of thing. And he was like, but he was still happy to carry on. But we'd had a phone call as well in that time, discussing options of it was the first thing I did was respond straight back to him with a phone call and see like whether he wants to change anything, whether he wants to stay on track. I think just being that first port of call, especially in the first like 3 weeks, like 3-4 weeks of having a client, them knowing that they can reach you with everything and talk to you about everything, because then they don't hide anything then, or they don't, feel like they've got like, I don't know the word, like got shut off from you by like suggesting something and you just par it off like that. He needs to be relatable with them. I think I just went on a ramble then, didn't I? But technique is just being as open as possible and being able to speak to them.
Yeah, genuinely, that was very, very helpful.
So after you've got a new client sign up on board, like what would you sort of, that's a really bad way to phrase it. So when somebody signs up, what do they need to do in order to be a good client and get the best result possible?
So I don't need to, but I think it shows great interest when they're asking a lot of questions. When they're in the gym for the first session, they're like, is this okay? sending you a form clip, when they're asking about the tempo and they're like making sure that they've got everything right, or sending out the D-handle attachments. Is this in the right position on the gym pin bar? Is this what you want me to use? Different things, and being really interested in what it is. And I think it's really, really important, like I said, with the first port of contact for the first few weeks, that you're really enthusiastic with them and you actually give a shit about the progress and about their interest, because they've just weighed up whether to spend hundreds of pounds on you a month. They've had their plans from you, and they're asking a question. If you just like a thumb up or yep, that's okay, to their whole session, they're going to be
same again next week, bro.
Yeah, they're going to be like, always just take the money. And then, but yeah, you might give a great response at check-in that first week after, but like throughout the week, you've just sent like 1 or 2 messages, you haven't checked in on them or anything. They're kind of left in the dust. You need to check in on them quite frequently.
Yeah, it's not just about check-ins, like you said. You can't just be like once a week communication, because that's not okay.
I am that client where it is once a week communication with Joe. Like, other than check-in, we don't even talk, and we're good mates. we literally won't even chat until check-in. Like, yeah, cheers, mate. That's sound. But that's that. But I think that's just because I've been doing that many years, and I'm like, even when I first got with Tom, this was like 5 years ago, he'd text me like, "You all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" He's like, "You're like the quietest client I've ever had." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just happy cracking on." So some clients don't need to be bothered, but I think it's just important to let them know that you're always there, and that you're interested in what they're doing and you're interested in their progress.
Yeah, like Matt always says that to me. He's like, if you've got a problem in the week, you can message me. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's not urgent, so I'll just put it in the sheet and it's fine. Like, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, to me, I'm the same sort of thing, in the sense of like once, maybe twice a week, if something's happened, then sound.
I think I might have texted Joe twice during the week since in the like year and a half I've been with him. No.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. You mentioned relationship with food earlier. I can't remember the specific point as to what, but how would you help a client who's got quite a poor relationship with food to sort of feel a little bit better about that and progress forward, essentially?
I think when they've been with you a few weeks, because I'm sure she won't mind me mentioning her name, I do this with Charles a lot. Charles like really trusts me to have taken on. If those of you don't know Charles, she's 21. She's going to do figure in the next 2 years as a natural competitor. Charles has always not struggled with her weight, but really, really worried about her weight and really, really been conscious. And it takes someone, first of all, it takes a coach that they really trust, and I'm really good friends with her. That's why she already trusts me that much. But to have built that trust with somebody, who I have with a couple of my other clients as well, to be able to, it sounds funny, almost coax them into doing wrong, but nothing's wrong, but coax them into taking something somewhere with food that they wouldn't really do, like you wouldn't usually do. They wouldn't go that far on an off plan. They wouldn't have 2 off plans a week, or they wouldn't deviate from their meal plan at all. So having something in there where I think it's really good how we'll track it with the daily body weight and daily biometrics, where I can explain like, look, your weight has not changed in 4 weeks. I don't want her weight to be changing as a byproduct of having mad off-plan meals. But what I want her to see is your weight has not changed for 4 weeks. You do not have to worry. If you go crazy tonight and have an entire pizza, entire tub of ice cream, and a cookie dealer, I promise you right now, on this sheet, by Saturday checks in, by Tuesday, it'll be absolutely back down to baseline, and there's nothing you need to worry about. And I think you need to just be able to show your clients what you predict will happen, and once they see it happen once, they're like, oh, okay, there's not that much to actually worry about. Then being able to compare their check-in photos like week to week on their check-ins kind of thing, and like go through everything and like address their concerns and stuff. And even like it sounds like a stupid thing to do, right? But I've had a few girls that have kind of struggled with their weight, whether they've been Gen Pop or wanting to compete or like just serious training. I've programmed like a normal fucking chocolate bar. It's food. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter.
I've done that before.
Why is it okay for people to have dark chocolate as a fat source in the morning and Cocoa Pops for a fucking post-workout, but people can't eat a chocolate bar on a plan? And they're like, oh, I'm actually eating normal food. I'm eating like a normal person along with my other bodybuilding meals, and everything is okay. I think that goes a long way with especially girls. that are Gen Pop clients as well as competitors as well, because competitors' relationship with food is probably worse than Gen Pop clients. So to coach someone into eating like that is like, yeah, it's harder to do with a competitor in my experience than it is with a Gen Pop.
I think
I really like that. It's very insightful. Thank you.
Talking about and continuing like talking about relationship with food, something that I personally have struggled with in the past and fairly recently is binging, like, and then that kind of binge restrict cycle and almost potential like guilt that you kind of feel. Do you like, what kind of experience have you worked with people that kind of like binge, and then you know the temptation to restrict is it's hard to fight off? Like, how do you, like, speaking for myself, like if I've gone and binged, it's so hard the next day to eat on meal plan because I just, that food feels very undeserved.
Well, I have binged in the past, like post show, my first of the shows and stuff, and it is very, very hard. And I also struggle to be a person where, like, Matt's very good at this, isn't he, Luke? Where if you've done something wrong, that's it, you've done one thing wrong. You haven't done the whole day wrong. I'm someone that like struggles to differentiate from that and do feel like I've wrote the whole day off if something goes wrong.
Yeah,
So I do
same.
feel that with myself. I think it helps that I understand that with people and can just talk to them about it, because there's not really plans that you can put in that. There is when you are post show with somebody with very specific goals and their competitors. You can, like Gareth, for instance, literally has a plan in place, and then I have one that I'll do with people where it's ready to send them over when they binge, because at one point post show, somebody is going to do it. Excuse me, somebody is going to do it, and it's like, okay, well, now it's important for you to understand, like, a little thing of like what's happened. It's okay, it's fine, it's literally going to happen. It's normal human behavior from when you've been restricting yourself. But here's now what needs to happen next. So whether it's like a reduced diet food or lower than your target calories as usual to allow you for a bigger meal later on in the week, teaching people how to deal with an off plan of it being a bigger off plan in the week. Do you get what I mean? So like showing, like what I did with Charlotte, what would happen with her weight like throughout the rest of the week kind of thing, and just to kind of guide them to what's more important to their goals really, and try and get to the deep root a bit of it, rather than little techniques like, if you're having an off plan, have it as the last thing in the evening, have it as your last meal. Just little daft things like that. Make a social occasion when you're going to have an off plan if you're somebody that's really struggling, like post diet. Because post diet, I am the hungriest person on earth. I think me and Gareth did like a UK tour of eating food post show last year. But what I didn't do was absolutely spend a whole day binging, because whenever I went for food, it was a social occasion.
Yeah, and make that sort of, especially post-show meal, make it social. Don't make it cookie dealer the second you walk off stage, because like that's just a recipe for disaster.
Well,
I
with like the way, like if someone's not doing a prep and they're just doing a normal diet and they're suffering from binging, you just go like, it's that sliding scale, right, of how committed you are is how much you put in with how much you get the results, but then you need the balance. It's how far on that sliding scale are they going to be, and how can you help them see where their progress is getting derailed, how slow it's getting derailed by their biometrics and stuff like that, or like how slow they're not even reaching their goals or something. Or like I don't like to add to a binge and restrict cycle and have lower food if they have. I think they just need to get back on plan, and as soon as they've learned to be on the plan, not a lower plan straight after, they understand, okay, it's coming off slower now, food's always going to be there. When I eat, it's going to be a bit more sensible. I've got a good relationship with my coach, and they're always going to help me with it.
I like that one. Any questions?
I was just going to say that I am now at the point where I almost find it interesting to weigh myself the day after. I'm like, what's happened? Because sometimes you lose a pound and you're like, what? And then
mate,
other times you're like 3 pounds up.
I struggle to put weight on that bad. If I deviate from the food I have to eat, I'll lose like 2 pounds. Even if I eat like a massive pizza or something, I wake up lighter.
That's why.
I'd love that right now. Oh,
are you still mega hungry, Jack?
Oh mate, yeah, no, I'm so food focused. I've been, it's like week 7 since I mini cut. Actually no, it's been 8 weeks. I'm up 12 pounds. I had 2 binges along the way, which I'm not proud of, but you know, got to take it in stride. It is what it is. But yeah, food focus is still stupid high, incredibly high. Yeah, like
I think so. We get so tied up in measure everything so optimally in bodybuilding these days. And don't forget, that is literally where my nuance is in coaching, the most optimal way of bodybuilding. But and I hate comparing to like bodybuilders of yesteryear or anything. Well, you ever see the stuff these people did with food? They went mental. Like, I think a lot of like binging and thinking, because it's blown up and everyone does a post about it on social media and everyone's got methods to go around it and stuff, it feels like such a taboo, alienated subject that you feel so shameful when you've done it. When in reality, you've just ate some food, man. You've just ate higher than your calories for a day. It's not like people film that shit for YouTube. It's okay. Like it's gonna be fine. Like you're bodybuilding, you're building muscle. You need to eat. Like, so as long as it, like, unless you're looking for an excuse to do it, oh fuck it, I'm gonna eat an extra bag of cookies today. Like it's not like, I think a good help is looking at stuff in a time scale of a day, a week, a month, a year kind of thing. Do you get what I mean? Everything we do is like insignificant the larger the time scale gets. Even with dieting for a show, if you dieted for longer, eating over your calories would be more insignificant if you like fell off plan or something like that. That's why people have longer preps, because they have longer to get the fat off. They can eat more calories. It's just trying to make sense of it all, really.
Yeah, that is fair. One question I got was from Mr. Daniel Park, DP Fit. He asked what your 3 favorite posing songs or songs to pose to.
Oh man, let me go after this. I don't know. I think I did A Day to Remember, Forgive and Forget. If any of you Grebo boys are in here. What else? I liked the Freya Ryden's acoustic one that I did.
Oh, that was banging. Yeah, that song is so good.
And then I also did one to Slipknot, Snuff. That was probably my favorite, or one of my favorites. That was like
I remember that was quite a while ago, wasn't it?
Well, it was in 2017 I did it, and there's not a video of it.
Oh, I must be thinking of the wrong one.
Yeah, there's a cool.
I've gone through and watched every single one of your posing routines.
Like it's similar to that. But yeah, Sammy did ask me a sensible question as well. Actually, I best I literally got one sensible question.
And how many? Why are you so handsome?
Tips when picking posing music. That's quite a sensible one, isn't it? So that is from Sammy as well. If you don't know Sammy or follow Sammy, Sammy is the OG of posing coaching, the absolute OG. For tips for picking posing music, I think every song near enough with lyrics is like 4 bars as it goes along, and there's a very easy posing 101 thing that I go by with clients. It doesn't always have to be that, but it makes every song very, very easy. If you pick something powerful that's like, it doesn't have to be a ballad, but it needs to be emotive. There needs to be a first verse and like a chorus or a breakdown, and then a drop at the end. So it's very easy with most songs. If you pick like, because you get a 1-minute snippet, the end of the first verse, so like halfway through the first verse, and then it'll go into a breakdown. So it's very easy to change poses from quieter, softer poses to change level, still softer poses, but a bit bigger, to come up into the chorus, bigger poses, and then there's always a breakdown at the end. And that's always the way that I kind of push people towards teaching it, unless they're like really gifted and can do like a big instrumental track. But you want to always pick something that you haven't heard 50 times that day, like Linkin Park or something else. Like I can't remember what they no choosing Dirty Diana, because if you're my client and you choose Dirty Diana, I'll sack you. No Linkin Park, and then there's another one at all the PCA shows. I can't remember. I must have heard it 50 times this year.
I was at FitX the other month and I heard Heatwave about 50 times for all of the eye walks. I'm like, I hate this song so much.
Yeah, they just have like one CD for all the eye walks and all the fitness categories. It's very annoying.
Yeah, it's infuriating.
I think choosing something that's not too out there that the audience is like, what the hell is this? And then also,
you need something that like a fair few people are going to know, but not something that everybody sort of plays.
Yeah, you need something unusual, but not offensive, I think.
Unusual, not offensive. That's brilliant. Yeah. And just something that you like connect to emotionally as well.
Yeah, oh, that mate, that's the big thing. You've got to be able to
Feel the
connect to
music,
emotionally. You've
yeah.
got to know the song. You've got to love the song because that's what like the posing routine needs to be. It needs to be not just showing a side chest. You need to actually feel the emotion flow through the music, and that's when you'll be like a real great poser.
Agreed.
I've got some quick fire questions to run through, Ryan. So what is your favorite and least favorite part of the industry or social media? I love this question.
My favorite part of the industry is just the people and the friends that I've met because it's been everything. Like even coming on the air with you guys, like this is the stuff I love doing, and I'd rather sit with you guys or like at a big expo, come and chat to you guys or anything like that, rather than like put a face on that isn't mine and represents a brand or something like that. Or, try and force yourself out there. I love connecting with people that like are genuine and really nice to get along with, and love like connecting with the younger lads as well, just people that are up and coming. I think what I don't like the most about it is how much you have to show your face and how much not being real gets you pretty far, because being yourself doesn't get, well, it does. You need to be yourself to get the furthest, but there's like a quick fire way of getting somewhere in the industry. Putting on a face that isn't yours kind of gets people like, you know what I mean? Like that head start where you're like, this is so fake or whatever. Like, and people just kind of flock to that. I don't like that.
Yeah, I get what you mean. That is like infuriating to sort of watch. Like Christian does it so well in the sense he is just himself all of
and
the
he
time.
is that as well. I've known him years. I've known him since
Yeah. Like every
he's
time I see
exactly
him
that.
and speak to him, he's exactly the same, and he's just the same. Yeah, basically.
He's Christian.
It's hard to as well, like be on the same team as Christian. It's not hard to be yourself, but it's hard to do it. And then he just does it. He bees himself better than you. Do you get what I mean? It's really funny.
Yeah,
You sound competitive.
No, but it's like because I had a business consult with him before, and he was like, "What do you not do on social media, bro?" I was like, "Oh, probably talk." And he's like, "You need to talk on your stories." I'm like, "Okay, well, it's like putting that out there." I do find it easy to chat my stories, but it's being relentless with it all the time, and that being you putting your content out there, even when you don't feel like it, and it not coming across as forced is like the hard thing to do, I find.
Yeah,
I feel that. Honestly, I feel that.
I was thinking earlier, I was like, have I spoken on camera today? And then I was like, yeah, I've done it twice already. But I'm like, maybe I should do it again. But I never sort of run out of things to say. But like I was speaking to Tom the other day, and he was like, oh yeah, I'll watch all of your stories because I know you're gonna have like something that's worth listening to. I'm like, bro, please don't listen to my stories. They're horrendous.
But the thing as well that gets you the most reactions when you're not even talking about transformation or anything like that. So when you're literally just talking and people will just chat to you. And then like you get chatting, like how many guys I've become friends with, whatever, I've just like replied to my story laughing, or like we've chatted about something and you're commenting on each other's progress. And then before you know it, like you're good friends with them. And it's the same like with potential clients or something like that. If someone finds your stuff funny or they like your stuff or react to your stuff and you follow them back, and you're like, actually, you're making really good progress, man. You're building up like really good rapport with people that isn't fake because they've just laughed at you doing something ridiculously stupid in your day. And you're not like trying to ram something down the throat, sell them something.
Yeah, I completely agree.
That wasn't really quick fire, was it? Sorry.
Questions. I don't know if the boys have any more.
I've got just some small silly ones, but John, you haven't gone in a while, so you go ahead, man.
All right. Pretty basic, but what's your all-time favorite pose?
I think it is just the front double, because you've got to be the best on the stage to win the front double. I think you've got to be the
Nice and
the best structure. Yeah, like the front double is the daddy of all poses in the managers, and it's actually marked as well. I can say a classic shot, but they don't even get marked, do they? Really?
Unfortunately, no. Yeah, because it's like favorite classic pose, and you've got like 3 people doing a side pose. You've got 2 people from the front, and then 4 guys doing a horrendous twisting back double.
Well, in FitX, last year they said we're not doing most muscular because everybody doesn't do it the same, so we can't mark it. Well, how can you mark a classic pose?
Yeah,
everyone does a different one. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean. But even there's variation with like the way people hit abs and thighs now.
Yeah,
Like some people do the side one. Like, I don't even know how to.
that's
do
a pet peeve of mine when people do a half most muscular with an ab and thigh. I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like it either. Unless you are absolutely fucking huge and you can do anything you want to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have any strange stories or experiences from bodybuilding yourself or coaching?
Oh God, yeah, too many. I don't know. I don't know what's appropriate to say on here.
Anything, we can always edit it out. We say we, I mean I am the only editor.
I'm not going to say it on air. There's just a lot of, oh God. There's a lot of dodginess goes on in bodybuilding that you hear about either through the grapevine or you speak to someone and they relay it to you and you're like, oh shit. I think particularly as a female, you need to be very, very careful of who you become friends with, who offers you stuff, who offers to coach you for free, etc. You have to be very careful. There's just way too much of that.
It was Jack Piad. Was he the recent?
Yeah, call him out.
Exposed.
Call him out.
Oh God!
Yeah.
No, I wasn't even part of that. Yeah, I wasn't even part of that. That was like Christian and Joe. But yeah, I don't even think that was recent. I think that was like years ago. He probably still is doing it. I don't know. I've never interacted with the dude ever.
My coach was coached by him for a time.
Oh really? Who's your coach?
Liam Rolls.
Oh yes.
Shout out,
Picture
shout
of
out,
the
shout
little
out.
Said his name wrong again. He's gonna drop me. He's gonna be fuming.
I always say Rouse anyway, but I think it's the Birmingham accent.
Yeah, there is some proper dodgy stuff going on. So like whenever it would come to like when my girlfriend wants to get a coach, for example, or like my friends that are female, I'd want to make sure that they aren't getting a proper dodgy one because you do definitely need to be careful.
Yeah, especially.
Well,
if
I think that's why Shah went with me because like there was like who could she really trust other than like she could trust Christian, but she didn't know Christian at all. So and like Tom had just gone with Christian, so like that's the other person she would have chose. But I think she was like she always says like it's not even. She loves our coaching and my abilities and everything like that, but she says it weren't going to be anyone else because like I don't trust anybody else. That's all, and I think that's how it needs to be. But unfortunately, not everyone's like fortunate enough to know somebody that's trustworthy in the industry. Like for years, until I was with like Physique Collective and stuff like that, bro, no one fucking bodybuilders around by me. Nobody. I didn't know anyone in the industry whatsoever. So I think that's why I like still keep myself to myself and don't get involved with that.
John, you got any other questions?
So
No, I think that's everything that I had all done. And then we had some quick fire ones.
Yeah, I think in the interest of not chatting forever and keeping the podcast really, really long, even though I easily can.
Even though, in the interest of not outing anybody in the industry.
Well, we've done it so far twice.
Yeah, we'll call it a day.
I haven't caught up yet. I need to catch up.
we outed someone. Well, John outed someone last podcast, and I left it in. I mean, we might as well say it again. We outed Victor Black.
Oh yeah, but why is that? I don't know what that man is doing. Like,
man is mental.
he's such a drip.
Jordan
Honestly,
the other day, he threatened to end Joe Jeffrey's career. Why? It's fucking nuts. They should put it on a public post. I'm going to end Joe Jeffrey's career.
He's got, yeah, good luck.
That's crazy. That is
Did
crazy.
you see Jordan Peters' comments talking to him? They had a little back and forth. That's so funny.
Fair play, JP. JP's a don't give a fuck. He's like, no, see you later.
Yeah.
You know what? JP is like the nicest guy ever as well.
Really?
He's like the nicest guy ever. He's got time for absolutely everybody.
Yeah, Matt always says that to me about how nice he is because he trains at the gym there.
Well, even like he just like he sent because Ryan used to be coached by him years ago. You know that owns my gym.
Yeah, I remember.
Like 5 years ago now, something like that. 4 years ago. So Ryan set up as a wholesale so we could obviously sell JP subs. He's sent us got to be like $1,000 worth of clothes for all the intent members to have for free. He's literally such a nice dude.
Matt.
Thing is, like, JP's letting Matt train at his gym and he's like friendly with everyone in Physique Collective, but then the people that follow JP will shit on anything that isn't one set all to failure until your eyes are crying. Like,
I got some right flack for that, mate, on my post.
Oh, I'm not
Yeah,
surprised.
that was
Bikini girls fucking sharing it, saying go hard or go home. Then okay, I guess I haven't put 20 pounds of muscle on in a year and a half. I'll fuck off.
How can you grow muscle if you don't?
I
do
told
enough
you to
reps?
post. I told you to post your progress since you started with Joe.
I've done it before. I'll have to do it again. I might just tag the people that shared it as well. Someone went off. Some guy like there was foreign went off on it last night at like 2 a.m. as well. So I had to wake up and can't fucking argue that as well.
That gets on
I
my
hate when that happens because
He
you wake up
argued as well,
and
saying like,
immediately shits on
what
your
about
day.
training to failure, and then saying they're not at MRV, and so I was like, okay, well, I understand they're not at MRV. Does this mean they can add more volume to their sessions? It's just like, well, what do you like? If they're training at maximum recoverable volumes all the time, it's just like, I don't know. It was just such a fucking thing.
Yeah.
But then I had to really articulate myself and make sure I didn't trip up as well, because there's loads of people that are out for you. I don't get as well. I don't care how anybody else trains at all. But it seems like if you do not train to failure, they really do not want you to train like that. Like at all. Why?
Train to failure or don't train at all.
But the thing is, as well, we do train to failure. Like,
Exactly.
you come and train with me like week 4 or 5 when I've got 6 sets on the hack. Like, what?
Yeah, I've got a mate who, I'm not going to out him. He said like, can you explain to me how people grow with reps in reserve? And I'm like, well, even if you want to completely disregard every week that they're using not zero RIR, and their final week, you see people using RIR, they're doing like 6 or 7 sets all to failure, all with crazy accuracy.
Well,
telling me that you're at least not going to grow that week.
Here's one thing.
There
as well,
is
like,
so much evidence that reps in reserve training works, even just from looking at people who
Literally.
train in the gym, because not many people train to failure anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
It gets me as well. Like, even when you take out, like, let's say, oh, there's so much junk volume. Okay, right. Well, here's a scenario. A man walks his dog every single day past a park, 365 days a year. Every day he walks past this park, he goes, I'm going to do 3 sets of 10 pull-ups on this swing. This man does 365 days worth of 30 pull-ups. You think his lats will not grow, but is that junk volume? Is he warmed up? Is he training anywhere near failure? No. But I do believe his lats would improve by doing 30 pull-ups every single day for 365 days. So, like, I don't, and they think that we just condone training like a pussy. Like, no, I will tell my clients, if you train like a fanny, if you've got like 4 more in the tank, I'll be like, come on, pack it in. Just think that they think that we take the easy way out and they get really offended by it, but that's not the case.
Do you use reps in reserve training with all your clients?
Unless they're like beginner, but if they, or unless they don't want to, really, to be honest. I've got clients that I have done before. I've got clients that I have done like a hybrid of, like, Beth is a good one, because Beth is an absolute meathead. She's a very talented figure girl that I coach. Beth has always been a powerlifter. So she physically needs to have something to release steam. Pendulum squat, fucking deadlift, it needs to be in there. Doesn't need to be in there, but what makes her happy, so I put it in there. So some things like that I don't escalate, and then I experiment and see what can I escalate around that, like different volumes, until it starts affecting and regressing her actual deadlift that doesn't increase in volume. There's not one set way that you have to coach or have to do these things. Like, it goes back to, like, even like old bodybuilders. Okay, well, I'll do my meat and potatoes movements that are heavy, and then I'm going to do 6 sets of arms afterwards. Do you get what I mean? Like, the stuff that are trained heavy would be to failure. The stuff that are not, like arms or delts or something like that, would not be like that. You don't have to be in one camp or the other. You don't have to stick to any rules in training. Every exercise is made up. It is, isn't it? It's like I picked up a bar one day and it was a deadlift. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong at all, honestly.
That is so true. It's so true. I love pointing that out. It's an incredible thing. It's an incredible thing.
Right. Are we gonna wrap things up there? Because I'm aware that we've been going for quite some time.
On that
Yeah,
bombshell.
let's call it a day. Ryan, have you got any concluding words of wisdom for us?
Or would you like to call anyone out?
Or if you'd like to call someone out, that's
Just get the list up, name, reel them off.
I don't know. I haven't really got anyone I hate in the industry. I've got people that I just won't watch and don't really interact with, but I don't hate anyone. So no, I won't do any calling out. Got advice. I have done everything wrong. So even if it's not me, go and employ somebody that can stop you doing everything wrong, because it does need to be like that for prospective clients, basically.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to end the podcast. Thank you very much for your time once again. Really enjoyed talking to you, and I hope anyone who has listened all the way through has found this useful.
Thank you very much.